Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, LeBron has a near-perfect night, but is that good enough? Gronk parties it up in Vegas, so should the Patriots be concerned? And will the marriage between Dwight Howard and the Lakers have a Hollywood ending? The First Take podcast starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. I'm Carrie Champion, sitting next to Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. We're situating
Guess who's back in the house?
You're back in the house.
Like I told y'all I would be.
My microphone's...
You know, you're like a spoiled brat. Every time you don't see me across from you,
that is true.
Like my mama.
I agree.
I don't understand it.
And by the way,
yes,
you did a good job with Dwight Howard.
Thank you,
and
sir.
we will get to that shortly.
Thank you, sir.
You did do
Yes.
a good job.
Well, I always
Congratulations.
appreciate that coming from the crew.
Yeah, you're good.
Coming from the crew.
Yeah, and we'll let you see it in a minute, but like he said, another topic. Let's talk LeBron. It was the best shooting night of LeBron James's career. In the Heat's 99-94 win over the Bobcats, LeBron was 13 of 14 from the field with 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. After the game, James was asked about his nearly perfect performance, and he said, quote, "I'm very confident in my ability, and I just go out and try to make things happen." Skip, on a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed were you by LeBron James last night?
Mr. Smith, I may surprise you with this. I'm going all the way up to 7.
Okay.
Because I was very impressed that my man LeBron James took a very mature, low ego approach to what turned out to be a very losable back-to-back game, albeit at home against what I consider the NBA's worst team, the Charlotte Bobcats.
Okay.
In years past, this was exactly the kind of game that LeBron would have come out and said, "We got this. Watch this. I'm going to put on a show tonight." And he would have started pulling up from 30, as you say, pulling up from 3.
I say that about Durant.
Well, I know, but this is what he would have done in years past.
Okay.
And he would have given us one of his occasional 1 for 8 from 3 kind of games, and all of a sudden this game would have gotten really dicey. But what I loved about last night was that LeBron James attempted 0 threes. 0. And he is now shooting a career high 40.4% from the three-point line. Applause for that. But much more applause for saying, wait a second, tonight I'm being guarded, and I use that term very loosely, by Gerald Henderson and Kemba Walker. Are you kidding me? It's like a super highway to the basket, and LeBron took it. All 14 of his attempts came in the paint. All 14. And he made 13 of them. And one of them was a sweet little right-handed hook, little baby hook. And then he made an even sweeter little left-handed bank shot. These were tricky shots, but vintage LeBron shots. And in the end, it took all 13 of those, plus his 5 free throws, 5 out of 6, to hold off the Bobcats, who I remind you, and I did watch this game, had the basketball down only 2 with 1:19 to go at Miami. Had the ball in their hands. Had a chance to tie or go ahead. It took all of the above for LeBron to get this game home. I'm impressed. I'm going to a 7, albeit against the Bobcats.
I didn't even think about it. If I had to put a number on it, which I don't think I should have to, it would be a 3. There was nothing. Listen, it was typical LeBron to me. I don't look at LeBron as somebody that has a huge ego as it pertains to the game of basketball. I think he's accomplished enough. I think he's secure. He's self-assured enough and secure enough within himself where he doesn't think about things like that, and he certainly doesn't have to. I will give the Bobcats credit from the standpoint that even though their record isn't indicative of it, they are playing significantly tougher now than they did last year. And so I like that. I like to see the effort. Obviously, they've got to improve in the talent pool, but the effort is there on the part of the Bobcats. So I give Michael Jordan and that crew a lot of credit. But it's still in all, Miami's in a different league. And when you look at LeBron and what he's bringing to the table, I mean, the fact of the matter is he could get to the hole. He didn't have anybody to retain him from getting to the hole. So you're just playing intelligent basketball there. That's why it's not really that big of a deal to me. You have to always take the level of competition into consideration. You're playing against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oh, yeah. You're playing up against an experienced Boston Celtics squad. Oh, yeah. You're playing up against the New York Knicks, considering what they did to the Miami Heat in 2 meetings this year. The Indiana Pacers, as rough and rugged as they are, and the way they are straight up balling, I'm going to take that seriously. Chicago as well. But again, the Bobcats are a young team, and even though they're playing tougher, they've got a long ways to go. So when you look at what LeBron did, I'm not gonna put that much mustard on it.
Would you like to see him do more of this, attack more and more and more?
The way I look at it, I don't view LeBron's game the way that you do. I look at LeBron, and I think that LeBron does what needs to get done. I don't look at him as somebody who can get to the hole with ease and elects to shoot jump shots. I think a lot of times when he's taking jump shots, it's because they're laying off of him because they don't want him to get to the hole, and they're daring him to shoot jump shots. So he's like, all right, I got to be able to take this, and obviously I could hit some of these shots, so why not? I think that's what you see in LeBron. I don't look at it as a situation where he says, oh, but let me just sit out here and jack up shots to show the world that I got a jump shot. I don't view that.
I don't know about that.
I don't. I know you think like
that. Okay, here's a key stat for you. In the 62 games last year in the strike-shortened season, LeBron James attempted only 149 threes. Through 45 games to date this year, he's already attempted 146. So
that's because he's been hitting them with
all right. Is that a good sign to you or a bad sign?
Well, listen, it's always a good sign when you add something else to your offensive repertoire. That's number one. I don't think he's to the point where Dwayne Wade should be encouraging him to participate in all-star festivity.
Which he did.
Three-point contest. I mean, the dunk contest, yes. The three-point contest, I think, is going a little.
And what did LeBron say? No, thank you.
Well, listen, because LeBron is not a three-point shooter. He's a scorer who can hit threes.
Okay.
But he's not a three-point shooter. He's not a three-point specialist. And I think that's what that contest should be reserved for. But I understand Dwayne Wade, just another way to exhibit his faith in LeBron. But I wouldn't go that far. But again, I'm not concerned about LeBron and what he did in a regular season game and at the beginning of February. I'm not concerned about that at all. I told you the Miami Heat have earned the right to be measured by April, May, and June, not February. I keep telling you that.
Remember the movie Are We There Yet with our guy Ice Cube?
Yeah.
That's what this season should be called for the Heat. Are we there yet? Because every night I watch them, and it looks like they're all saying to themselves, is it over yet? Is it? Did we get another W? Is it time for the playoffs yet?
Right. Exactly.
Are we there yet?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's the most accurate thing you said about the Heat all year long. Because
thank you.
Because
from you, what a compliment from Stephen Naismith.
I was getting ready to say Naismith. I appreciate that. Here's the deal, though. It's not an insult. Listen. You are a team that's won championships. You are a team that's getting up there in age, okay? You're not 19 or 20. You're not Kevin Durant.
LeBron's like, 38?
No, he's not. I'm just saying. They're not old. They're just not young. I'm just saying you go out there, the 82 games. When you get measured the way they get measured, you want to get to the point where it counts. You don't want to sit there and have to listen to Skip Bayless judge you because you showed up before Valentine's Day and you didn't really feel like playing a particular evening. You don't want to hear that. You want to be judged in April, May, and
Last point. Whose fault was it that the Heat got very little sleep the night before in a back-to-back when they came home from Toronto on Super Bowl Sunday? Whose fault was that?
How would I know?
It was their fault. They chose to stay in Toronto longer so that they could all watch the Super Bowl game.
Time out. Do you have a problem with that?
I don't, but don't complain about it.
Hold on, it's not complaining. It's a point.
Don't tell me you're sleepy. LeBron said he was sleepy to start the game.
So what? The point that I'm trying to make is this: the Super Bowl. Listen, 110 million people watch the daggone Super Bowl. I mean, the Super Bowl folks. I mean, come on. The NBA shouldn't be scheduling games for Super Bowl Sunday.
And speaking of the
Why
Super
not?
Bowl,
Why?
Because people watch.
days after the season is over, here come the favorites for the 2013 Pro Football Championship. According to MGM, Denver and San Francisco are co-favorites to win it all, 5-1 actually, followed by New England and Green Bay at 7-1, and defending champs Baltimore at 10-1. So this got us to thinking, Stephen A. Smith, who is your favorite? Give us your top 5 favorites.
Well, we're gonna march this down real quick.
Okay.
Let's start on Carrie.
Okay.
Carrie, you paying attention? All right, let's go.
Listen.
All right, we're gonna start.
She's got a lot of issues going on today. I don't know what she's doing.
I
can't even. Something's wrong with Carrie today.
My microphone wasn't working.
Very good point, Skip Bayless. She is, she is something little going on. Yeah. We got to get on her. Another time.
Not them.
Another time. Let's go to number 5. Skip Bayless, I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons.
Really?
The fact
you
that,
have that much faith in the Atlanta Falcons?
The fact that you finally got over the hump in the Mike Smith, Matt Ryan era.
Wow.
You found a way to win a playoff game. You lost in the NFC Championship game despite having a 17-point lead because you were simply an inferior team to the San Francisco 49ers. The better team won. The better complete team.
All right.
But it says that I got Atlanta at number 5.
I will already divulge, I do not have Atlanta in my top
Shocking.
5. Thank you very much. But I do have, and this will probably surprise you, I'm ranking my Patriots all the way down to 5. I had them at number 1 this whole past regular season because they dominated in turnover ratio and they dominated in offense, and I hated the way they played the second half against the Baltimore Ravens at home in the AFC Championship game. Talib is a big issue. Wes Welker's a big issue going forward. I don't know if either or both will be there next year. So I am not bullish on my Patriots just yet.
Let's go to number 4. I'm going to go with your boy, Peyton Manning, Denver Broncos.
Should have.
Got to put him in the top 5.
Yeah.
They've got Peyton Manning, the greatest regular season quarterback in history. We're going to go with him because the Broncos, I think their defense was much improved this year. I think offensively, Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker found their own. They found their groove. And, of course, they found it with Peyton Manning. I'm going to go with them at number 4.
Okay, I agree with everything you just said, but you've got them too high. We'll get to that in just a second. Because in this spot, I'm going to put your Baltimore Ravens. I still believe in the Ravens next year without Ray Lewis. I think whoever steps into his shoes will certainly be a little younger and fresher and maybe even more talented at his age than Ray was at age 37. Lardarius Webb, remember, one of the best corners in football that they lost, will be back. And again, I'm sure they'll re-sign Flacco, and the connection with Anquan Bolden was simply the strongest connection of quarterback to receiver I saw in the entire playoffs. I am not discounting this team if Suggs gets his biceps reattached, which he needs to.
Let me say to you, I do not have the Baltimore Ravens in my top 5. I do not, because I believe one of the most difficult things to do in sports is repeating as a Super Bowl champion. All guns are blazing in their direction. I think Flacco is big time. I think they are big time, but not to repeat. I think their number will be called next year. The year after next, I think they'll be back in the groove, but I think they'll stumble just a touch come postseason time next year. My next one, however, you know why, Skip. Green Bay, the bad man that he is.
And that bad defense that they have, just bad.
Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. The best quarterback in football, the bad man.
So next year he's going both ways. He's going to play safety.
No, I think they'll improve the defense because the defense can't get much worse. The defense can't get worse than they were the last 2 seasons.
And is Aaron going to run the ball for him also?
I think Aaron Rodgers, I think if he has to, he will.
He'll do it all.
Their offense will be prolific. Their defense will be improved. And I think that the San Francisco 49ers obviously would be the one team standing in their way.
Okay, now we get to the really bad man who was Peyton Manning last year, who should have been the MVP of the regular season.
Side note.
His team only won 11 straight games, and it took a Hale Jacoby, 70 yards from Flacco to Jacoby Jones, to even get the Ravens to overtime at Denver. So they had the Ravens beat dead to rights in Denver, and they would have advanced. Well, obviously, they would have played the Patriots the next round. So I'm going with Denver there.
All right, let's go to number 2, Skip.
Top 2, y'all.
You didn't give him the respect that he deserved, but I will. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
I love that pick.
Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. First of all, the dude that's acting, he's not a knucklehead, but he's acting like one in Gronkowski. He really needs to get his act together. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I think the combination of him being healthy, with Hernandez, with the rest of the crew that they have, with Tom Brady, with a defense filled with playmakers, with Bill Belichick, with the great owner himself, Mr. Robert Kraft, they won't slide. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Gronkowski was hurt, wasn't healthy. It cost them. They won the AFC Championship this year. Gronkowski was hurt again. This time, I think somehow a miracle will happen. He will be healthy. They will be in the Super Bowl next year.
I have convinced you about my Patriots.
No, you haven't.
Wait, you know what I'm going to do?
Here's the bombshell.
Hold on just a second. I just made a switch.
Oh, no!
You talked me into it.
Okay.
Did you see what I just did?
You moved him to 4.
Yeah, I just moved him up to 4 just because Stephen A. Smith made such a good case for my New England Patriots. I like that.
All right.
Now, for my number 2, you may be surprised about this.
Watch the ring.
This is a good one.
Boom! RG3.
Can you believe that?
And I was close to going number one here. All they did at the end of the regular season was win 7 straight games. All they did against the Seattle Seahawks was jump up 14-0. And then what happened? He tweaked his knee. And then he hurt his knee, or they would have won that game in advance. And I don't know, they might have gotten to the Super Bowl for all I know.
Wow.
And as you know, Arakpo and Carricker, their 2 best pass rush, hurt all year. I'm going to trust they're going to come back. And I am going to trust, I for one, because I so believe in Robert Griffin III, he will be ready to go by the start of the regular season coming off his knee reconstruction.
Not going to visit it. You know what? That's a separate topic. I think we can add that to the
Add
show
it to the
because
list.
I want to have a conversation with you about that because I disagree. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. I'm going number 1, okay? Number 1 is the team who lost the Super Bowl less than 48 hours ago, the San Francisco 49ers. Let me tell you something right now. Colin Kaepernick's the real deal. I believe in him. I believe in Vernon Davis. I believe in Crabtree. I believe in Gordon Michael James. I believe in Jim Harbaugh. I believe in that defense. More importantly, as I sat back and watched those guys sitting there as the confetti descended from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, I looked at their face, and they know they lost this game. They should not have lost this game. They didn't show up in the first half the way that they should. I think the pain of that experience is going to motivate them to a level unseen in quite some time, this entire offseason and into next season. I think the San Francisco 49ers are the team to beat. I think I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl championship next year.
Okay. My number 1 is, you ready for this? The Pittsburgh. No, I'm
I
just kidding.
was going to say, you did not.
I did it for Rochelle, our producer. I just wanted to give
no way.
And for you, you're a Steeler fan.
Listen, I know, but
Come on.
still, you got to show me something, that defense.
Great minds.
Nope, sorry. I agree with you for extremely different reasons. The 49ers will win next year's Super Bowl because they got robbed of this year's Super Bowl. Oh, don't start it. Start it. You know it, and I know it.
No, I don't
this will be vengeance. This will be a year of vengeance.
Telling me what I know.
Oh, come on.
I don't know that. They ain't getting
You
robbed.
have to make that call. You have to make it. It's a blatant hole, 2 yards
deep in the end zone. How are you down 28-6 to begin with?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
That was a 22-point.
How were you in position to win the game? And Crabtree gets held. It should have been a flag. It should have been a San Francisco victory.
Oh, stop it.
The Super Bowl is tainted.
Oh, it was not
Ray,
tainted.
you got a tainted ring on your finger right now.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't you dare be disrespectful.
I'm being honest
here. Don't you be disrespectful.
No,
T. Sizzle and Ray Lewis and all of you, watch your mouth.
Rings. It was tainted.
Is it safe to say the only problem you have with his list is his number 2, the Redskins? You said you wanted to make it a topic for another day.
Listen, we need to make it a topic. We need to listen. I believe in RG3. I'm very impressed with what I saw, but I also think that RG3 won't run the way that he used to, and everybody will see the the Redskins coming this year because, again, they won't sneak up on anybody. I like the Redskins. I'm very impressed.
They're going to win the East next year?
You know what? They probably will.
They probably will.
But I'm just saying, in terms of going to the Super Bowl, no, I'm not going that far. Not going that far. Not yet. How would you describe your relationship and how you feel about Jim Buss and the Lakers organization?
I don't personally have a super good relationship with Jim, but I would love to. I think he understands that, he shouldn't put any pressure, on the situation or onto me about staying or leaving, anything like that. That happened last year. And I think what he just wants to happen is for us to go out there and play and for us to trust each other and not let, nothing affect us.
And that was Stephen A. Smith's one-on-one with Dwight Howard. So, Stephen, tell me, what do you make of his comments there?
Well, first of all, he's sending a message, Skip, that after the experience that he had in Orlando, his whole thing is that he wants to be a free agent. He wants to be free to make his decision because his whole mentality is that he trusted an organization, meaning that of the Orlando Magic, by opting in. Being told certain things were going to go down. This is his explanation. Being told that certain things were going to happen. Being told that he would be pleased enough where he'd want to stay. Just trust the organization. Don't just walk away from us. So he opts in and he elects to stay in Orlando. Then everything goes awry, and then he's labeled the bad guy. He's labeled a coach killer. He's labeled a franchise killer. He's labeled all of these different things. So what he was saying there was, don't try to put me in this situation here again with the Los Angeles Lakers. You knew what my status was before you traded for me. You knew that I had the right to be a free agent come July of 2013. You knew from Jump Street that I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in signing on and committing to the Los Angeles Lakers until this season is over. Let's make sure we're consistent with that, because what didn't air was the actual question that I put forth, and that is, my sources have been telling me that Jim Buss has been walking around L.A. telling folks that it's 95% probable that Dwight Howard will commit to staying in L.A. And Dwight is saying, look, don't go there. Don't start any of that nonsense. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to deal with it. I want to play this season. I want to see what this organization is about from this day forward and moving forward. And then from that point forward, I want to have the freedom to make the call that I want to make. And that's just the way it's going to be. I don't even want to talk about anything beyond the season.
You okay with the way that came across for Dwight?
Well, I asked him. I said to him, look, man, the way you just said that, you know, I mean, again, that doesn't sound like the greatest commitment in the world to the Los Angeles Lakers organization. And his exact response was, I am committed to helping the Lakers win a championship this season.
Which is a long shot at best at this moment.
Right.
I'm going to see this glass as half empty. You're more on the half full side, but I'm not going to give him a break here. First of all, he says he doesn't have a super good relationship with Jim Buss yet. He obviously also said he didn't have a super good relationship with Kobe Bryant.
At the beginning, he said it's much better now than it was at the beginning. Yes.
These are the two most important people in the franchise, Jim Buss, Kobe Bryant.
Got it.
This comes across to me as almost a threat to Jim Buss to leave me alone, leave me be. Don't be talking about me and my 95% commitment here.
That's exactly how I got it.
And then it comes across as, you asked him another time, we didn't have it in that clip, but about you realize that going forward you could be the face of this franchise. I'm paraphrasing.
And that Kobe wants to give it, wants him, this is yours.
And he didn't respond directly to that question, but just the look on his face was like, yeah, like I got this. So it comes across as he realizes he could soon be in position to hold the Lakers hostage. I know that's a little strong, but that's how. He's got him in a pretty rough position right now. With Kobe nearing the end of the line, he might play hasn't Kobe suggested he might play one more year? And so there's going to come a push-to-shove position here for the Lakers where they got to say, is Dwight our next 6 or 8 or 10 years? Is he the face of the franchise? And I think Dwight is realizing that. And he realizes that his leverage is through the roof of the Staples Center. Because it could come to the point, and we heard all the stories come out of Orlando, but he's in position to negotiate for, maybe, I'm just throwing this out, he could negotiate for a new coach. He could even negotiate, if he wanted to, for a minimum number of touches that he would get each game. Because he clearly said to you, I'm not happy with the number of touches, I want more touches, right? So he's going to be in an extremely commanding position. As you told him, you got that legacy going with the Wilts and the Kareems and the Shaqs. He could become that next guy, and Jim Buss has been pretty public as saying, we want him to become the next great center in L.A. Well, Jim, you're giving up all your negotiating power here. You're just saying, here, Dwight, it's yours if you want it, right?
Where we disagree is with timing. You keep qualifying your statements about could be or this is inevitable. It's already here. Right now, the capitulation you see on the part of Kobe Bryant turning into that point guard, distributing the basketball, giving up more, giving him more shots, taking less himself, along with that of his teammates. Them slowing the ball down a little bit more, not playing at the high-powered, high-speed, frenetic pace that Mike D'Antoni is accustomed to coaching. That has a lot to do with Dwight Howard. That has a lot to do with it. And why? Because you've got to keep this dude. If you don't trade him come February 21st trading deadline, this is Dwight Howard. He's got it all. There's nothing you can do because you cannot lose him for nothing. If you lose Dwight Howard for nothing. Now, there are some who make the argument, Skip, I'm in L.A., and I actually have people telling me this. This makes no sense to me, but I just want to throw this out there. They're talking about Lakers might not care that much if they lose Dwight Howard Just like they might not care if Pau Gasol and his contract ultimately expires, because next year's just lasted $19 million.
Yep.
Because they're bleeding, they're hemorrhaging money. So as a result of that, because you're hemorrhaging money, you're in a situation where you want to start anew and take some of those financial obligations off your chest. Now, I would sit there once upon a time with Dr. Boss, Magic Johnson, and all of these consultants affiliated with the organization. I would say there's no way on earth that the Los Angeles Lakers organization would ever do something so asinine, especially with Laker Nation. That is just blasphemous, okay? But sacrilegious even. But we're talking Jim Buss here.
Yep.
And I don't know what's possible. If it's Dr. Buss, I can vouch for that. If it's Mitch Kupchak, because Mitch Kupchak's one impediment, I think he's a great executive. His one impediment is that he doesn't schmooze very well. He can't kiss somebody's tush. He can't, cajole. He doesn't coddle. Mitch doesn't know how to do that. Mitch is just, I'm running basketball operations. We're not trading Dwight Howard. He's on the record. We're not trading him. So all of those things are going on in Laker Nation right now. Dwight Howard is aware of it.
Okay.
Now, where that leaves him, I don't know. But it clearly puts him in a position of tremendous leverage.
One other quick point. The biggest bombshell to me was Dwight's confession to you. He offered this up to you, that even as he sat there, his legs were going numb and getting tingly.
Yeah.
And that's where he loses leverage, not all as a potential trading piece, but with the Lakers long term. So he had back surgery, L5-S1, it's your bottom disc, and apparently it didn't completely work because he said it's bothering him during games. He said 75%. But Stephen A., if you're still getting shooting pains because your disc is rubbing against your nerves, which was supposed to get fixed, that's a big problem going forward.
That's a big problem, and you enlightened me about that if it's the case. He's not a doctor. He's just describing how he feels. What I can tell you is that when I saw Dwight in the off season, he couldn't stand up straight.
Yeah. Wow.
This is
after surgery.
This is after surgery. And then even in the summertime when he could walk, couldn't run. I mean, couldn't do anything. You remember I was with him the day that the trade went down.
Yeah.
And he was excited. He was ecstatic. Still wasn't running. Didn't jump for joy, didn't run. He screamed, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was limited. So I think that, when he says he's 75%, I'm looking at it like it's getting better. It's just not where he thought it would be by now. But it's not like he's getting worse.
Well, those are the symptoms that you have surgery to alleviate.
Yeah. That also says a lot about his mind state.
Yeah.
A lot.
What happened is Randy Moss, he alligator armed it. He didn't go up for the ball. He said he was the best receiver in the damn world. Okay, you hear me?
No, I'm listening.
Oh, God.
I'm listening.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Guys.
I
agree with you more. I looked at that. He didn't alligator arm it. He didn't even reach up for it. He watched it sail over his head.
That was Romanowski. Moss had 5 targets in the Super Bowl, but only had 2 catches for 41 yards. Enter the age-old debate about Moss and consistency. So based on what you saw, Stephen A. Smith, is Moss done in the NFL?
I would never say that, not never, because the expiration point, the period on somebody's career always arrives. But the bottom line is that Randy Moss is no longer the Randy Moss that we've known. He can still be big time in moments. But even in his greatest days, he lacked consistency as it pertained to effort. And now when you're older and Father Time is knocking at your door a little bit and there's a moment where the effort is flagrantly lacking, it's a bit more conspicuous. It's a bit more alarming. He has 2 catches for 41 yards, okay, in the Super Bowl. Well, that's relatively anemic to begin with. But when you couple that with the fact that you're just days removed from proclaiming to the world that you are the best receiver to have ever lived, to have ever played in this game, prior to the biggest game of your career outside of the Super Bowl you were in with the Patriots years ago, we're waiting to see. Not to mention the fact that, again, you're going up against a Baltimore Ravens defense who is tough enough where Colin Kaepernick could have used you. And so when you don't get it done, that's bad enough. When you don't get it done after running your mouth, that's even worse. But then when they have a replay showing that the one interception that Colin Kaepernick is responsible for, you are actually in the vicinity, because we all got caught up in Ed Reed, the great Ed Reed, picking off the pass. And that's what we saw. And then we got caught up because we were distracted by Kerry Williams jumping up after he got his helmet knocked off and pushing the ref. Even though I still contend he didn't know that was the official.
Oh, please, stop it.
I'm just telling you. But the point is, you have those two incidences that allowed us to gloss over the actual play. And the actual play is Randy Moss was in the vicinity where he could have lifted. This is 6'4", 6'5". He could have lifted his hands up, all right? And you know, something could have. He might have had to take a hit. Yeah. Maybe that was it. But Bill Romanowski, expletives notwithstanding, was making a very valid point when he pointed out that, you know what, he alligator armed it.
Well, I don't think he alligator armed it. I don't even think he tried.
Yeah?
No, seriously. Yeah. Alligator arm is to do that. Did you even see him lift his arms up?
No. Yeah, I mean, because when I looked at that play and you look at that angle, this angle's not good enough for me. I need a different angle where Randy Moss is right in front of us, because then you can see that from a different angle he could have extended his arm, and who knows, here it is right here. Look at this.
Right. He just is
he slowed down and everything. He slowed down and didn't lift his arms. No, that's inexcusable. And by the way, that is not something Jerry Rice would have done.
I agree.
Not Chris Carter would not have done that. T.O. would not have done that.
I don't know. He alligator armed a few in his time.
Yeah. But I'm saying you might have went up, might have brought a block or something. He would have done something more than that.
Randy Moss looked at that throw and said, this is not just beneath my dignity, this is above my dignity. You know, I'm not even going to try for that. Come on, I'm Randy Moss. Throw it in the ballpark.
Put out, yeah.
Before I answer, I want to say up front that I made the mistake on this show after the 06 season of writing off Randy Moss. Why did I do that? Because the late, great owner of the Oakland Raiders indicated to me that he was convinced that Randy Moss had lost heart for playing football and also lost about a half step that made him not quite the deep threat he used to be.
Okay.
But from what I saw on Sunday night, Stephen A., and what I saw all year, which was not even one flash of the old Moss, where I said, wow, did you see him get behind that cornerback or that safety? I didn't see that. Is he still capable? He's still capable. He can still be your third receiver.
He's capable. He's capable. He's still better than most receivers in the game. It's just his effort.
Okay, but I still see him on his last legs. This is just a guesstimate. I will bet you that Jim Harbaugh, as Manningham comes back, if in fact he regains his step that he lost, or he got his knee wrecked, obviously. If Manningham is back healthy, I will bet they will cut ties with Randy Moss, because the one guy who will not suffer the lack of effort for the Super Bowl is the coach Jim Harbaugh. And this is just I've talked to a lot of people who know the psyche of Randy Moss. He can be very thin-skinned, he can be oversensitive, and this is just a complete guess on my part. I defended him on this show last week when he said, I believe I'm the greatest receiver ever. But he took such a public beating over that. He took so much. It was an onslaught of criticism, starting with Jerry Rice and Chris Carter. Everybody, every show went after him. You didn't like that he said that. And you don't think he heard that? You don't think it stung him all the way to his depths of his soul? And it's possible he came out hurt I'm talking about emotionally.
If that's the case, then he needs to retire.
Well, I agree.
I mean, because
but we've seen him do this before.
Because let me tell you something. If that's going to get in the way, if that's going to infiltrate and contribute to the dissipation of your emotions for a Super Bowl, I don't want you. I don't want you. You're not worth it. You know, that is the kind of moment. And I'm not saying that's how he felt. I'm only saying that if you are correct, and that's what happened to him, I don't want him. Because I'm here to tell you something right now. You got to get up for a Super Bowl. And see, this is the part, the word that you left out, again, assuming that the people that know Randy Moss who you spoke to are correct in this. This is where the word selfishness needs to be added to the equation. See, Skip, to me, when they talk team, when we sit here and we bandy about young kids, high school, college, whatever the case may be. Why is team so important? Why do people preach teams? Why do we emphasize the importance of team? Because it means being selfless, not selfish. It means looking to the person next to you, in front of you, behind you, and understanding that you have a greater obligation to them just as much as you have a great obligation to yourself. So if it's the Super Bowl, think about all the work all those dudes put in. And think about if indeed Randy Moss didn't give a full-fledged. Now, I don't see that. I saw it on that play. Yeah. Okay? Maybe he was scared to get hit because there was somebody coming over to put a lick on him. I'm not sure if it was Pollard or not, but somebody was in that vicinity next to him, and Ed Reed was behind him. I did see him catch a 30-some-odd yard pass in the game, so I don't want to accuse him of being, lazy and not caring.
There was the other pass in the first half, the comebacker that Colin Kaepernick hesitated on and threw a little bit late, and he did not come back for it. He didn't come back and fight for it the way he should have.
This is why trust with a quarterback is so important. This is why working out in the offseason and developing the chemistry is so important, because you have to have dudes that you know are going to go all out just like you do. And if you don't know that about Randy Moss at this stage of his career, he needs to go.
Well, Adam Schefter reported on Sunday that the Ravens will consider releasing Anquan Boldin and or Jacoby Jones to sign Joe Flacco to a long-term lucrative deal. Here's the question, though. Should Flacco take a pay cut to keep the receivers? For that, I'll ask Skip Bayless.
Stephen A., my jaw dropped when I read Adam Schefter's report that it's possible the Ravens would have to cut, number one, Anquan Boldin to keep Joe Flacco, at least to give Joe Flacco Drew Brees money. So if it truly will come down to the Ravens saying, Joe, you can either have Drew Brees money or you can take less and you can keep Anquan Boldin. He has to take less because Anquan Boldin, I'm going to say it again, made Joe Flacco. Taking nothing away from him, but I thought the MVP should have been shared with Anquan Boldin. And Stephen A., if you ask me to rank receivers in the NFL right now, after what I just saw in these playoffs, I would rank as a money receiver number one in the NFL, Anquan Boldin. Who's better? Who made bigger plays in the postseason? Who made their team, made their quarterback? And I refresh your memory. They were in some trouble against Indy in that first home game, Ray's last home game. In the second half alone, Anquan, he didn't catch a ball in the first half, caught 5 for 145 and a touchdown. He took the game over. At Denver, he caught 6 for 71. He caught no balls in the first half as they trailed at New England 13-7 at halftime. Second half, Anquan Boldin, 5 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Super Bowl, as you just saw, 6 catches for 104 and a touchdown. He took games over. You have to have Anquan. Just as a little bit of a luxury, I mean, you could also make a case that Jacoby Jones should have had a share of the MVP with his return and obviously his big touchdown reception. So if it's coming to that, unless this is just some negotiation hocus pocus out there, just to save yourself, Flacco would have to take a little less money to keep one or both of those receivers, especially Anquan.
Love to disagree with you, but I can't. There's no way you don't accept less money, or I want Drew Brees money. So you know what? I don't need Anquan Boldin. I don't need Jacoby Jones. As far as I'm concerned, they both made Flacco to some degree. If you want to continue to have the success that you have when you are a quarterback in this game, you don't just make receivers; they make you. They have a lot to do with your success, and if they are incapable of getting it done, okay, then we got a problem. So the way that I look at it, honestly, I'm saying to myself, you simply cannot afford to find yourself in a situation, if you're Joe Flacco, where you have to operate without Anquan Boldin and Jacoby Jones. I think you do what it takes to keep both of them. If you were due to get $60 million, maybe you should take 53
I agree.
And to make sure you can keep both of them, whatever it takes, because in order for the Ravens to enjoy the success that they just enjoyed, to have a shot at it, you got to keep those dudes.
Yep.
You got to keep them.
Would you agree with me that even though Anquan doesn't have the biggest speed, he's not a speed guy, he's not a deep threat receiver, doesn't separate that great because somebody's always all over him, and it doesn't matter because he just goes up and snatches everything. Would you agree with me that just as a money receiver that right now you'd have him at the top of the NFL list?
Anquan Boldin?
Yeah.
Top of the money list?
Top of the list. No, just as a guy that you would, who would you trust the most? See, I'm going to put him above Fitzgerald. I'm going to put him above Andre.
I can't put him above Fitzgerald.
First
of all, let's be clear. Fitzgerald may be one of the rare wide receivers in NFL history who didn't have a quarterback to throw in the football. I mean, literally. I mean, when you see how bad this dude Lindley was, I mean, in Arizona, that made Mark Sanchez look like Joe Montana. That's how bad the quarterback situation was in Arizona. So I don't want Larry Fitzgerald held accountable in any way for what happened to him. But Boldin, I know he can ball. I got a lot of respect for Boldin. But when you talk about elite receivers in the game, his name does not come to mind. You talk about dependable receivers. You talk about dependable receivers. I'll give you a perfect example. And I'm not comparing him to Chris Carter or anything like that. Chris Carter was just inducted to the Hall of Fame. What did we keep saying about Chris Carter? All he does is catch touchdowns. 130 touchdowns in his career, okay? But you have some people who debated that. You didn't mention Chris Carter in the same breath as you mentioned Jerry Rice.
You did not.
You didn't mention Chris Carter in the same breath as you mentioned Randy Moss. You didn't mention Chris Carter even in the same breath as you mentioned Terrell Owens.
Or Mike Corbin.
But he's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
We know Chris Carter can play. I believe he was deserving of the Hall of Fame. And boy, am I proud and I'm happy for him. But at the same time, there's a difference between elite and reliable. Elite and dependable. Elite and money at money time. Money at money time. All I'm saying is that's not to sneeze on Anquan Boldin. He can play. He deserves some money. But let's stop just a tad bit shy of talking about him like he's that big time.
Question.
That's all I'm saying.
When those Cardinals out in Arizona were flying the highest with Kurt Warner at quarterback.
Oh, he was there. He was there.
What was happening?
Yeah, he was there with Larry Fitzgerald.
Who was a money receiver? Oh, Anquan was. Trust me.
Yeah, but who was the guy? Larry Fitzgerald was the one that demanded double coverage. Larry Fitzgerald was the elite receiver.
I get it.
Larry Fitzgerald was. Oh, that's all I'm saying.
But maybe we underestimated exactly what Anquan was doing for that team.
But we're not underestimating him. We're saying that he is a very, very, very good receiver in the NFL who shows up when money time arrives. He deserves a boatload of money for that. I'm just saying let's not act like he's elite.
Yep.
But when we think elite, we don't think Anquan Boldin. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm thinking elite because I agree with what Phil Simms kept saying on the broadcast.
Yeah.
He's open when he's covered, right?
Okay.
He just is. You can't stop him from going up and getting the football.
Yes, but until the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl, he had been in there for a few years doing his job, but we didn't talk about him then. He didn't. To me, Anquan Boldin didn't do anything different than he's been doing. He's always been reliable. He's always been dependable. He's always been open even when he's not. He's been doing this. We weren't blind. We saw it. But why are we recognizing it now? Because they won a Super Bowl championship.
Because he did it 4 straight games, not just one.
You know what? As far as I'm concerned, he's been doing it throughout his career. That's why he deserves to get paid.
A nearly perfect performance from LeBron James last night as the Heat beat the Bobcats. Every shot was from inside the paint. James only missed 1 contested layup in the third quarter. Based on his performance, though, what do you think? Should he shoot more or less from the perimeter? To answer that question, we welcome in NBA analyst Tim Legler. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. Why don't you let us know what you think about that?
I actually think for the first time in LeBron James' career, he has found the perfect balance of perimeter game and interior game.
Okay.
Because I think earlier in his career, I think he was the type of guy that could be baited into taking the shot that you wanted him to take, which was that contested sort of 19, 20-footer. He wasn't a confident perimeter shooter. It was very inconsistent. I think for the first time in his career now, he takes the jump shot when it's given to him, and he's a much more consistent shooter, 40% even from the three-point line this year, 56% overall from the field. But you take a look at a game like last night, it shows you still at the core he's going to take advantage of the physical mismatches that are presented to him. And when you try to put a guy like Gerald Henderson on him and play him single coverage in the post, it's almost embarrassing to LeBron James that you're going to allow them to do that. So he took 14 field goal attempts, all of them practically at the rim, because that's what he was going to be able to do and physically dominate a weaker defender that doesn't have the size.
By the way,
strength
Gerald
to play
Henderson is listed at 6'5", and I'm saying he's not 6'5". Come on.
Not 6'5", and he's given up probably about 50 to 60 pounds.
At least.
And so LeBron James took what was there last night. And actually, he said it after the game, and I like this about LeBron, it's the way he thinks things through. Tough road trip. You play in Toronto. You fly to Miami the night before the game. You come in. The Bobcats are coming into town. Where's the motivation going to come from throughout your team? They struggle with them throughout the game, but not because of LeBron James. And he made sure he got quality shots for himself, and he took advantage of what the defense gave him. But for the most part, I think he now takes perimeter jump shots when he's supposed to, and he's making them now because he's a much more confident player.
Concerned at all about the possibility of somebody like LeBron James wearing down? I like what I'm seeing from Dwayne Wade this year. I think his health is improving. I spoke to him the other day when they played the Nets. He says that his health is getting better. But at the same time, you sort of wonder, because as you look at LeBron, you see him getting slapped a lot and what have you, and you just wonder if teams are saying the level that he's at in terms of up here and up here, now that he's got that proverbial monkey off his back having a ring, only the best way to handle him right now is to get physical with him and bang him up a little bit. Do you see any signs of that having an effect on him at all?
I think you have to start to take into consideration because of the stage of the career. I mean, the number of games he's played now, the number of hits he takes. He plays a very physical game. I know he looks indestructible.
He does.
Think a guy like this once-in-a-lifetime freakish type of athlete is indestructible. But he's not. We ran a graphic the other night on NBA Tonight that talked about guys playing 3,000 minutes and winning rings in those seasons in which they do that. They don't do it. And LeBron James is on pace to do that. And it's something you do need to take into consideration. Obviously, his frame allows him to take a little bit more of a beating. But that's a lot of minutes to play over the course of a season, and then also have to now go through win 16 playoff games and win another championship. It's a lot to ask of a guy.
Stephen A., that is a good question. But I think this man is a freak of physically fit nature. I've never seen anything like it before. I'm not saying he's indestructible because he's clearly human, but he takes punishment every night, and it doesn't seem to faze him a bit. He'll have a knick-knack, this or that. He'll turn his ankle, and he'll be right back out there 2 minutes later. So I haven't seen that start to wear on him, which was the issue at hand. I also made the point to Stephen A. earlier. I thought last night was a very mature, low-ego approach for LeBron because that was a dicey game. Charlotte had the ball down 2 with a minute 19 left. That's ridiculous. That's the worst team in the NBA. But as you say, they watched the Super Bowl at Toronto, then they flew home. They got no sleep. LeBron said he got no sleep. So he just said, hey, I'm just going to take it to the rack tonight because this guy can't stop me. Kimba was trying to guard him sometimes. Okay, he shot 0 threes, even though he's now a career-high 40.4, as you say. But I'm going to take issue with this because I think it's a bad sign that he's shooting far more threes this year than he shot last year. Just the stat is, through 62 last year in the strike-shortened season, 149 attempts.
And I don't think
three.
It's a bad sign.
Okay, he's already at 146 this year through 45 games. So he's on pace to go way high here. I still say, even though I applaud him for improving from the three-point line, he's still streaky at best to me. He's been on kind of a year-long, pretty good streak here. But I'm going to throw out my favorite stat from the playoffs last year one last time. The last 6 playoff games he played last year, Game 7 at Boston and the 5 in the finals, LeBron James on jump shots was 10 for 53. That's 18.9%. That's pathetic. And yet it didn't get them beaten in the finals because what did he do? With Durant on him, he just started saying most of the time he was going to the hole.
Well, Tim,
okay?
First of all, he's lying. That won't be the last time. It won't be one last time. He'll bring up the 10 for 53 stat again. Bet the house on it.
Maybe tomorrow.
Bet the house on it.
Maybe.
Well, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think he actually said one more time.
One more time.
Instead of the last time.
There you go.
That's okay.
That was not the last ride on that one.
Exactly.
He left himself a little wiggle room.
That's right.
That's okay.
He's going to ignore the 18.9%, really? And it's February. Good luck.
Well, one thing I'll say, and obviously that's a pretty dramatic drop-off in terms of shooting percentage. But if you look at every great player in the NBA, their shooting percentages from perimeter drop in the playoffs. Fewer open looks. The game is much more physical. You're physically more tired from what you have to do on both ends of the floor. It's a grinded out game. When you finally get a clean look, a lot of times you're shocked that you even have one. So it's expected to see those numbers drop. But I know this. Right now, when LeBron James shoots a three-pointer or a perimeter jump shot, it's the first time in his entire career I'm sitting here watching him, and I expect the ball to go in.
That's good. That's a good thought.
And I feel comfortable in him taking those shots.
But help me out here, because that's what I've been trying to explain to Skip from this perspective. The fact that you feel that way, I'm looking at it and I'm saying he's making these shots. Anybody else, we would be looking at him and saying that's an added weapon to their offensive repertoire. What you tend to do with LeBron is you tend to say no, because that's going to give him too much confidence, and then he's going to jack up those shots again when
he'll give you a 1 for 8.
Yeah. When he needs to be going to the hole. I'm saying, did it ever occur to you that by hitting those shots and by establishing himself as a viable threat, you will get up on him as a defender? As a result, it will increase the probability of him blowing by you, getting to the rack, and it will open up his game even more so. That's how I view it.
Okay, but I still say he can fall in love with the three. We've seen it before. And again, does he have a big ego? They all do. Come on. Okay. And does he want to be known as a great three-point? Yes, he does. And what happened later in the careers of Michael and Magic? They taught themselves a three-point shot. Magic's was just a set shot. The man started working later, right? Yeah. Okay, so he's on the career path. This is his 10th NBA season. He's finally starting to hit threes. I still say it's a little bit of a dangerous trend.
One of the things I have noticed about him this year, his three-point attempts are up. I think most of those come within the flow of the first 42 minutes of the game. I still don't think he's at a stage where he was, I say 4 or 5 years ago, when he would absolutely bail out a defense by taking a 26-footer because that's what they wanted.
Late.
He's still, to me, determined to make sure he gets to the rim, gets to the foul line, and mixes in a three here or there in important situations. I just think he's now rounded out his game. The one thing he did not have, well, two things. The post play, comfortable with his back to the basket. He's clearly added that. And now being confident in taking and making deep jump shots under pressure. And he's starting to do that as well now.
Okay, bottom line, I think you would also agree the Heat as a team are not playing at the level they were a year ago.
Completely agree.
And guess what? So what?
Completely agree.
It's February.
Flip that switch.
It's not so much that. They're winning games, but what you're seeing from the Heat, which is probably driving Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra crazy, what you're seeing for they don't take games off, but they take quarters, they take minutes. They're like, look, can April come sooner? Are we there?
Are we there yet?
Which is what you said. That's what I see, Tim.
I compare it to the quest that they were on.
Right.
Okay.
They satisfied that.
Yeah. Hard to be hungry.
Take that edge off. It's the human condition is to take the edge off a little bit. I do think they can elevate to another gear.
But say why?
When they get into mid to late March.
Because remember, I believe why is one reason. Once you get to late March and April and the playoffs begin, the edge comes back because they will then, like you said, where's another one? Where's another one? And they know that, but they know they are not measured by what happens in the regular season. That's why it doesn't.
So we should not discuss the Heat on this show until April.
I said, no, you should not worry.
And that's the reason you still see the Thunder with their foot on the gas because they're still chasing something.
They had their foot on Dallas' throat last night.
Tim, did you happen to see Stephen A's one-on-one with Dwight Howard?
I did.
You did. Okay, well, I'm going to have you listen to a little sound and we'll get your thoughts on that, okay? He's talking about Dwight Howard's rough start with Lakers.
I want to be one of the greatest to ever play. And I have a great opportunity. I have a great chance to do it in LA. And it takes time.
When you say it takes time, Laker fans are saying, no, we don't have but so much time. It's almost over for Kobe.
These people aren't playing, though. We're the ones out there playing, you know. And if you look at the years where Kobe won with Shaq, when Shaq first got to L.A., they didn't win right away. Everybody know what happened to them. It took them 3 years.
If you're not here, the Lakers, for the foreseeable future, is probably not going anywhere. That obviously makes you a very, very important piece to this franchise's future. When you hear those words, what goes through your mind?
I understand what you know, the Lakers want. But I also understand that right now there's no need for all the circus and all the stuff that happened last year to start back up. I don't want it. My team doesn't need it. I don't need it. And frankly, our fans don't need it either. You know, so I don't want to go through all that again.
Doesn't want to go through all that again. So here's the question. Tim, and I'll start with you first. What is Dwight Howard's future in Los Angeles, in your opinion?
You will never be able to convince me that Dwight Howard is enjoying any part of playing with Kobe Bryant. And to me, when I look at Kobe play physically, I don't see him going anywhere for 2-3 years at least. So if Dwight Howard is signing up for something, that's what he's signing up for. And I thought you did a great job of pointing out some of the things that make Kobe difficult to play with. He's definitely a winner, but that doesn't make it easy for a guy like Dwight Howard. He has never played with a teammate like Kobe Bryant. And I still think he's trying to figure out, like, how does this guy play in the tunnel that he plays in when I'm out here on the floor? He's never had a teammate make him accountable for anything. That's an adjustment for Dwight Howard. For me, I just don't envision him seeing himself 3, 4, 5 years signing up a commitment, and you know you're going to probably play at least 3 with Kobe, when Dwight Howard, to me, is not really enjoying this experience.
Let me put you on pause for a second. Do you really believe that Kobe's going to play about 3 more years? Based on what you're seeing physically, what are you seeing physically that convinces you that would give Kobe 20 years in the league?
Yeah, he actually looks better to me physically this year than he has either of the last 2. In terms of his quickness, his explosiveness, he's still amongst the top 2 or 3 guys in the league in scoring, so his production is still there. He looks like a guy that still really likes to play. And I just think Kobe Bryant has bigger things he's chasing too historically, that he's just not going to just go. Now, what he said to you, I don't know if it was you or somebody a year ago, he said, hey, if you think I'm going to stick around and average 16 at the end of my career, you got another thing coming.
He said,
I thought that was a direct shot at Michael.
Right.
Okay. But so I agree with that. But in Kobe's mind, I think he can average 25 points a game for the next 2 or 3 years, minimum. So if that's how you look at it, and you're Dwight Howard, and you know you are living in that shadow, and even right now with what Kobe's doing, that's Kobe's decision to do that. So everything is predicated on how he wants to play. And I think for Dwight Howard, that's going to be tough for him to swallow and sign up for. And also I think in the Western Conference, it's going to be very difficult for Dwight Howard to win a championship for the next few years with
you also have to consider options. The one team in the East that has been talking to everybody and their grandmama about how they're coming after Dwight Howard is the Atlanta Hawks. They are making a run at Dwight Howard this summer. That's where he's from. I don't know if he wants to go there. He said that often. On many occasions, he's told folks it's questionable as to whether or not he'd ever want to be playing his hometown. Then you have the Dallas Mavericks, who believe that they're going to have some money. They're going to go after him as well. But that's the Western Conference. So, Tim, if you're in the Western Conference, you telling me that Dwight Howard would rather be in Dallas than L.A.? I'm not saying I'm ruling that out. I'm simply saying that I don't know if Kobe Bryant is the issue. I think the Lakers organization may very well be an issue. I think Laker Nation and the pressure that comes with that, can be an issue. I think Kobe helps to offset that because as long as Kobe Bryant's around, all right, then you've got somebody to put the pressure on.
He takes it upon himself.
And, he takes it upon himself, which helps Dwight Howard. So that's how I look at it. That's why I'm not ruling out the possibility of him staying. But that's why Jim Buss is so important, guys, because if it's Dr. Buss, think about it, Skip, all your years. Skip was covering basketball before you were playing, Tim. Before he was born.
I was covering the Lakers. I was covering the Lakers before Magic.
They had Mike.
But let me say this to y'all. Skip Bayless and Tim. You know Dr. Buss, the great Dr. Buss, whose health is debilitating, which is why his son Jim Buss is running the show. Is this even an issue if Dr. Buss is running the show? Lord, if Jerry West is there as the general manager, I mean, not to knock Mitch Kupchak, because I think
Phil Jackson is there.
Come on, now. It's not even an issue. So really, it's not a Kobe thing, is all I'm trying to say. I think it's an organizational thing.
So are you saying, Mr. Legler, that you see no way that Dwight Howard would sign long-term with the Lakers because you're guesstimating Kobe's got at least 3 years left as a Laker?
I wouldn't say no way, because Dwight Howard has proven, if nothing else, over the last 12 to 18 months, that none of us know what is going on inside of his mind and what type of pressures he will feel to stay there, because that's what's expected of him, and people would think would give you the best chance wearing that Laker uniform and playing with him. I'm saying internally, I just don't know if he's got what it takes inside to play with him and enjoy the experience, which seems to be a big part of it for Dwight Howard.
Yep.
I want to have fun. Talks about it all the time. Doesn't look like he's having fun to me.
Stephen A., I've told you many times, I thought Dwight was much happier being the biggest fish in a medium-sized Orlando market. He might be much happier being the biggest fish in not a small market in Atlanta, but not a great basketball market, right? It's not the game in town. No. He could help make it that, but the pressure and expectation on Dwight Howard would fall dramatically in Atlanta in the Eastern Conference as opposed to what he's under right now. Yet, what offends me about his comments to you, first of all, he says, I don't want another circus. He's the ringmaster. He could stop the circus at any moment by saying, I'm here to stay. I came here to win a championship. I'm going to sign long term. I'm going to figure it out with Kobe. I'm going to figure it out with D'Antoni. I'm going to figure it out with the Jim Buss that he told you at the end of the interview. He wasn't, what was the line about, I wasn't super good with him to start with? Right. Okay. That's all on Dwight. Yet,
with Jim Buss?
Yeah.
I don't put anything on anybody in the Lakers organization on them more than Jim Buss.
Okay.
Jim Buss is at the heart of those problems.
Okay. So it's coming across to me like Dwight is suggesting to you between the lines, I'm in the power position here. I can't hold this franchise, this great franchise, hostage because this franchise needs me. Now, again, most people are thinking Kobe will play 1 or maybe 2 at the outside more years, and that it's going to be Dwight's franchise for the next 8 or 10. So it almost comes across to me like he's got such leverage. He could negotiate for a new coach. He could negotiate for a minimum number of touches per game. He could. It almost came off that way at the end in Orlando,
I don't think
right?
he negotiate for touches.
Well, but I'm just saying it comes across. He told you he needs more touches.
He does. He wants more touches. I've never seen a big man that doesn't feel that way. Shaq felt that way. Everybody felt that way outside of Wilt Chamberlain and Jabbar because it was money that they were going to get the ball, just as much as it was money that they were going to score the ball. What I would say to you about Dwight Howard is, as I look at him, I see a guy genuinely to me that has not made up his mind. He hasn't made up his mind whether he wants to stay or go. He literally, now you can sit there and criticize that, and that's fair, but I don't think he's faking. He really doesn't know. This is a guy that said, I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go to Brooklyn. Every one of us is like, he wants to go to Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets were doing everything they can to give them Brooke Lopez and Marshawn Brooks and Chris Humphries, and the list goes on and on. I want to go to Brooklyn. And then turned around and opted in to commit to Orlando, giving them the power over his career. I have never seen it in my professional career, Tim, where an athlete knowing that level of power and influence over himself and his own career was in the palm of his hands come July and gave it away to the Orlando Magic. He gave it away. I've never seen it.
And I agree with you 100% that he genuinely doesn't know. Right. But for me, the two reasons that he doesn't know is, do I want to play with Kobe Bryant for another 2-3 years, however long he thinks he's going to play? And do I want to play for Mike D'Antoni, and how long is he going to be here when he's a guy that doesn't even emphasize the things that I do well?
He would. I will tell you this, both of you. He wouldn't touch the D'Antoni topic. Everywhere. I mean, I asked D'Antoni questions about every which. I mean, I'm trying to. I couldn't think of more ways to ask about D'Antoni. Okay, because you know what, you know how I feel, and I would say, look, man, and he said, hey, we got to roll with the coach. You got to do what the coach asks you to do. He said, you got, and to me, that reeks of Stan Van Gundy, the Orlando Magic fiasco, and the fact that he does not want to be attached to anything that involves getting rid of a coach, because that's something that's going to follow him the rest of his career. He wants no part of it.
Last quick question for Tim. I thought the biggest bombshell that Dwight dropped to Stephen A. was that he said, even as I'm sitting here, I'm feeling numbness and tingling down my legs post-back surgery. That was supposed to fix that numb and tingling, right?
Yes.
Does that give you pause? I'm sure that came as some surprise to his teammates in his front office, because we haven't heard that before.
There is absolutely no question. And not just that, but look at now with the shoulder. Look at the thing. He's not going to get healthier. This isn't the movie Cocoon, where all of a sudden he's just going to all of a sudden go back to his youth. Big guys, they get beat up, and the way he shoots free throws is going to continue to get hammered around the basket as he's trying to get that ball up to the rim. It takes a toll. For me, from this point forward, you are going to see Dwight Howard, I think, have the number of injuries increase in frequency, severity increase, and number of games decrease. So that's a big risk for any team, I think, looking at him right now. He's still, in his prime, but he takes a physical beating with the way he plays, and the fact that he can't finish free throws is going to make it just worse on him. And he hasn't really addressed that to the extent that he needs to.
But he did make 90% of his free throws in high school.
90.
I want to see some video tape.
I do too.
I want to see video
When you
tape on
saw
that.
me, I said 90%.
9-0.
9-0.
Yep. And you know what else? I used to do 360 alley-oops in high school, too. There's no video of that either.
What? There isn't?
No video of that either.
I will tell you this, though. He was more candid than I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
I've never seen him that way. And I did not see a liar. I was talking to somebody that I felt like he wanted to have that conversation, and he wanted to put everybody on notice. This is who I believe I am, and this is where I'm not sure yet, and I'm not scared to say it anymore. I was scared before. Last year I was a bit hesitant and I was indecisive, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm just not sure yet, and I have a right to wait to make my decision. That's what I got from him.
One of the telling things to me, when he's always talking about having fun, he said even in that interview, I want to have fun. I want to have fun. Kobe Bryant's all business, and I don't know how much fun Dwight Howard's going to have playing.
You said that before on the show.
Kobe's all, and that's why Kobe and Shaq couldn't stand each other, but they won together because Shaq was all business. The lights came on at 7:30. He was going to take no prisoners and rip your heart out, and Kobe respected that aspect of him. I don't think Dwight Howard's having a whole lot of fun. And he always says that's the most important thing to me.
And I spoke to numerous sources on the Lakers yesterday, and they were quite surprised about the tingling in the legs and stuff. They were unaware of that. They did not know.
Wow.
All right,
Shocking.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Well, another video of Gronk being Gronk has surfaced. Rob Gronkowski dancing in Las Vegas at a nightclub with his shirt off. And you just saw him right there body slam his friend with that cast on. And then he gets up, he continues to dance, all with the black cast on. So here's the question. How concerned should the Patriots be about Gronk? And Stephen, excuse me, actually, Skip, I'll start with you.
I need to start this.
Yes.
Sure.
The Patriots should be concerned. They should be angry. They should feel betrayed. They should be wondering at this point, will they ever be able to trust a guy who can be the most fearsome tight end in football? Because, Stephen A., you spoke earlier in the show about the importance of being a teammate, being part of a team, that you have a responsibility to the other members of your team to show up for games in the best shape mentally and physically that you can be. That's what you owe them. So we just saw Rob Gronkowski re-break his forearm in the game against the Texans. And he wasn't there for his team, obviously, in the home loss in the AFC Championship game to the eventual champion Ravens. Now it's his responsibility to get right for next training camp as quickly as he can get right. That does not involve wrestling up on stage, falling, it appeared, on his same broken forearm, risking breaking it again to where it will become a chronic injury that will never quite heal. And I will say, in the end, it appears that every time we see these Gronk gone wild videos, that it appears to me alcohol could be involved. It could be involved. And if that's true, then maybe that's an issue that his Patriots and the front office need to address. Because going wild again and again and again is an insult to the organization and to his teammates. And I can tell you one man who particularly doesn't like this, maybe two, Belichick and his quarterback. You can bet on that.
Let me say this. This is the same Patriots organization that got rid of Randy Moss because of temperamental tendencies and not following the code of what being a Patriot is all about. When it comes to the Patriots, I rely heavily on our colleague here at ESPN, Mr. Teddy Bruschi, who is a champion, has a champion's heart, exhibited professionalism.
You remember what he said about Chad Ochocinco?
And I remember what he said about Chad Ochocinco. I mean, I pay homage to that man when it comes to the Patriots. Teddy Bruschi is my personal gospel. He's my E.F. Hutton. He speaks, I listen.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
Fair enough.
I have not had an opportunity to talk to him about this, but I will say based on what I saw, I'm not going to call Gronkowski an idiot. That would be too incendiary and irresponsible. But there's nothing wrong with me saying that he displayed himself and looked like and acted like an idiot in that video. And that cannot be tolerated. It cannot be tolerated by Bill Belichick.
Nope.
It should not be tolerated by Tom Brady. It will not be tolerated by the owner, Robert Kraft, who is first class personified.
Yep.
Okay? It is that simple to me. You cannot have this guy acting this way. And here's why. For those out there that may not understand, because we always got a few idiots out there who are younger, with breath smelling like Similac, wet behind the ears, don't understand anything. Let me explain to you how this works. A long-term financial investment has been placed in Gronkowski. The same Gronkowski that people are going to sit out there and bloviate about, oh, he's on his off time. It's the off season. You still get checks in the off season. Keep in mind, 2 years ago, or rather last season, not this past season, but last season, you had a Super Bowl against the New York Giants. He got hurt before then. Came in the Super Bowl, wasn't nearly himself. If he is healthy with the Patriots' 2 tight end formation, you picking them to win the world championship, I might not have had no choice even though they were going against Big Blue.
I agree.
The combination of Gronkowski and Hernandez with the rest of those weapons, the Patriots could have won the Super Bowl. This year, he gets hurt again. You can't perform. Okay, you go up against the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game. What happens? You can't do anything against them, in large part because you don't have Gronkowski, and that's a huge, huge weapon. How do we know this to be true? Because Ray Lewis is your middle linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl. God bless him. We love him. We're proud of him. But he could not check Vernon Davis. Well, if you couldn't check Vernon Davis, what you going to do against Gronkowski? So these are things, all I'm saying from a plausibility perspective. There is a legitimate argument that could be made that Gronkowski's absence cost the New England Patriots the last 2 Super Bowl championships, which would mean the priority should be on him. It should be a priority in his mind, body, and soul to do everything I could to be 100%. So next season, I don't hold my team back from achieving our ultimate goal. Knowing all of this and the picture that I just paint for you, which is about your life, Gronkowski, not mine. You are at a nightclub in Vegas, okay, looking like you were inebriated. And body slamming your own friend. He did. I don't know if you watch wrestling, Jake the Snake. All right, that was his. That was his move. That was his move that Gronkowski did. Okay, you could have landed that dude on his head. You could have hurt your friend. You also ended up falling down and slamming your hand down. You could have hurt your hand even further. And then not only that, the video itself doesn't look good because you look rambunctious, you look a bit out of control.
Reckless.
And you look reckless, and that's not what the Patriots want to associate themselves with. As long as I see Gronkowski getting away with conducting himself this way, I don't want to hear a word about Ochocinco. I don't want to hear a word about the Terrell Owens of the world. I don't want to hear a word about that stuff because let me tell you something right now. We might not like some of the things that have transpired in people's career, but we don't see the level of recklessness that we tend to see with Gronkowski. This dude is a wild card.
He is.
And it needs to be checked immediately.
By the way, good point of order for those who might not follow it closely. He broke and rebroke his forearm on the field to play.
Right.
So that wasn't a reckless off-field action.
That's
just so we don't.
Yes.
But he's risking re-breaking it again on that stage. And we've seen this before. We saw him coming off his ankle issue that slowed him in the Super Bowl, remember, a year ago at the post-game party, quote-unquote, or the wake or whatever you want to call it that the Patriots held, and he was dancing up a storm in that. Okay, so it didn't look good. Nothing he does off the field ever seems to look good, right? It's not Patriot-like.
So if you had to guess, he got a phone call. And what was said?
Well, I would think so.
Let me tell you something right now. The only phone call he would have gotten from me, if I'm Robert Kraft, get your butt on a plane and get back here immediately. I want you in my office tomorrow morning. I don't care what you're doing. Cancel it. I want you here in my office tomorrow morning. And then what I would engage in, if I'm with the New England Patriots, is something I call my CAM move. Career-altering maneuvers.
Oh, okay.
I would sit there and I would say, look, this is what you're going to do. And if you don't do that, we're going to deal with you. You understand? And you're going to make it very, very difficult for somebody else to want you, because it's time that we start treating you like the man that you're supposed to be. You want to act like a child, we're going to expose all your childlike tendencies. So not only will you not be here anymore, it will be very, very difficult for you to land anywhere else where somebody wants to make a long-term investment in you. You're going to get one-year deals. Enough of this. Enough of this.
Cam move. I like that. Your Cam move was joining First Take.
Yes.
Call it whatever you want. I'm happy about it.
In the latest ESPN.com NBA power rankings, the Spurs remain at the top spot with the best league record, 38-11. So Stephen A. Smith, you are not biased when it comes to the Spurs. What do you think of this?
How big a joke is this? That's what I want to know.
I never liked this subject. Can y'all put up the top 5 power rankings for me, please? I'd like to see that. Let me be very clear. All right? I don't like this subject because I think Skip sets me up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, with the Spurs.
I didn't even suggest this.
Zip it, neither did I. Zip it, I'm not finished, because you need to understand my point. Skip, with his bag of tricks, you know, at the debate desk, always likes me to bring up this point because he knows how much I love Popovich. Okay, he knows how I feel about that man. He knows how I feel about Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and those boys. I got love for them. I know them. But the point that I'm trying to make is I don't believe that this means anything. I am of the mindset that regardless of all of this stuff we talk about, in the end, it comes down to the eye test and what you believe is going to transpire come playoff time. The San Antonio Spurs looked like juggernauts throughout the season last year, and especially for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, when they won the first round and then they swept the Clippers, okay? I get all of that. And they looked like they were going to run over the Oklahoma City Thunder until Kevin Durant just went berserk and said, excuse me, did you forget who I am?
That guy James Harden had something to do with it.
Yes, he did. Well, James Harden is a stud, and I'm glad he's to represent Houston in the All-Star game. He deserves it. But let me say this. They're still the Spurs. In the end, they still come down to the big 3. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Stars who can ball, who are champions with a champion's heart, and guys that you can't lean away from to defer to some young blood coming up through the rear. They don't have that, dude. They've got talent. They've got pieces. But in the end, it's going to come down to them. And they are just not young enough any longer to get it done.
And to your question, Spurs, Thunder, Heat, Nuggets, and Warriors.
See what I'm saying? When I think about power rankings, okay, to me, regardless of what I've seen, the Spurs belong on the top of this. I'm just saying it means nothing because it's a regular season. But the way I look at it, I would sit there in terms of, you want to give me championship power rankings. Championship power rankings, which I could just shove aside regular season. It would be the Heat and the Thunder 1 and 2. Okay? It would be the Heat and the Thunder 1 and 2.
Okay.
I look at the rest of the Western Conference. I'd put the Clippers at number 3, even though the Clippers are 2 and 6 without Chris Paul.
I'm not 2 and 6. You're right.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about them because they don't have Chris Paul. They'll be fine. Okay. I put the Knicks up in there as well because I think the Knicks are going to be a huge. I put the Indiana Pacers. You got the Nuggets and Warriors on there. Mark Jackson, my man, so proud. Great job you're doing. I love George Karl, known him for years. He doesn't belong in the top.
Who do you not love?
You know what I'm saying? You know, because I love all of these guys, because I love what they do for the game of basketball. I truly do. But I'm just telling you, I got to let them know, because I don't want anybody to think I'm being, acerbic and coming after them. No, I'm not. Warriors are very impressive. Watch out for them. They get a home court advantage around in San Francisco. That's a big-time crowd in Oakland. I like them. The Nuggets, they all right. They don't belong in no power rankings. So I'm looking at them. It's a challenge to me whether the Spurs will be in my top 5.
Now we get to the truth. Now we got it on the table. Spurs are not in his top 5. Coach Pop, did you hear this? Tim Duncan, did you hear this? Manu, did you hear this? Tony Parker, did you hear it? You're not in his top 5.
It's rude to
Put it
point.
on your bulletin board.
It's rude to point. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. I got the Heat, I got the Thunder. All right? With the Spurs, yeah. But I got the Clippers. I got the Clippers, okay?
Yep.
And by the way, I don't believe KG's going anywhere, but let me say this for the record. KG ends up in a Clippers uniform, and you don't have to give up DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. You add KG to that mix, it's a wrap. The Clippers are winning the world championship.
That's it? It's over? With KG?
With KG.
At 43?
With KG.
43 years
So disrespectful. With KG added to the Clippers, if that ever happens, and you don't have to give up Chris Paul, Blake, DeAndre, Chauncey, Jamal Crawford, you don't have to give them up.
You got to give up something.
I'm
Come
just
on
saying,
now.
well, they were talking about Karan Butler and Eric Bledsoe.
Okay.
I'm saying if that's all you got to give up to get KG, it's a wrap. It's over. When they win in the championship, but it ain't going to happen. I can't see the Boston Celtics.
So back to the question. So we are saying, you are saying, that the Spurs' 38-11 record at this point, it's a mere bag of shit.
It's a mere bag.
It's a mirage. It's all smoke and mirrors, right?
In terms of playoffs,
yeah. 38-11. And I throw this out, just point of order here. They're 38-11, having conceded one game at Miami. You remember that?
Yes.
They just said, here, you can have this one.
We're taking a break.
Yeah. And Tim Duncan has now missed 6 games.
Even though they played a very tough game without those guys.
They did, because they are so deep, which you have such disrespect for. But that's okay. Tim Duncan has now missed 6 games, and he'll probably miss 3 or 4 more because he twisted his knee again the other night. Ginobili has missed 9 games. He may miss a couple more, and I don't care. My only fear about my Spurs winding up in the top spot when all is said and done after the finals, I have only one fear. That they're a little too young and inexperienced. And you say, how can you say that? Because your point was they're too old. I'm worried about, I got a 21-year-old in the starting lineup. His name's Kawhi Leonard. He's 21 years old.
Like him a lot.
Kawhi Leonard,
very
21.
Impressive.
I got another guy in my starting lineup named Tiago Splitter. Tiago Splitter. It's only his 2nd year in the NBA. I'm a little worried about the experience factor here, Stephen A. So I'm a little young and a little inexperienced. My Spurs, I don't know if they're ready to take the next step because, come on, Kawhi's got some growing to do, right?
Well, let me say this to you. Last year, Tiago Splitter. Yeah, what a joke. But that was last year. I don't know if it was the Olympic experience. I don't know if it was Popovich getting on them. I don't know if it was him being in the playoffs and Popovich told him to get on the bench and get the hell away from me because he was so disgusted with him when they were playing Oklahoma City. I don't know what it was. But Tiago Splitter is not the same player this year that he was last year. He is much better this year. No. I said this weeks ago. He is much better now than he was. It's not a laughing matter now. He's viable. But you keep bringing up, you remember you called me Stephen A. Smith for a reason. The point you're not listening to me. I've repeatedly told you that the big 3 is what they're going to lean on when it counts most. So no matter what you see from these young guys, when crunch times arrives, you want those dudes to step aside so the big 3 can deliver. And I'm just telling you, against these young bloods, I don't think that's possible.
I'm sticking with my Spurs.
Go ahead.
And smiling
all
the way.
And I enjoyed that topic
immensely. I shouldn't say it's not possible. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So the Eagles have to decide if they will pay Michael Vick a guaranteed $3 million on his contract and keep him on the team. The deadline for the decision is tomorrow, but a provision in the contract may buy the Eagles some more time. In fact, the team will likely wait until March 12th, the start of free agency, to reach a decision. So here's the question. What should the Eagles do with Michael Vick? Stephen A., start with you first.
I think they should let him go. I think
Do you really? I'm surprised.
I think Michael Vick should be allowed to move on. I think he can find a better situation. I think that if you're Chip Kelly, the likelihood is that you're going to want to start anew because after the atrocious year they just endured where they lost 12 games in the last 13 weeks, being a guy that worked in Philadelphia for 16 years, knowing the city the way that I do, which is like a second home to me, I look at Philadelphia and I say, you got a new regime, you're moving in a forward direction, and you don't want any residue from what transpired. Now, obviously, you know there can't be wholesale changes in terms of a Deshaun Jackson, a Jason Avant, a Jeremy Maclin, a LaShawn McCoy.
Yep.
Unfortunately, because of Andy Reid, their penchant for throwing the football, not protecting Michael Vick, him getting hit more than ever before, walking around punch drunk from the licks that he was taking, you're going to have people who blame him or believe that he's finished on that level because of what they watched him endure. Either way, that allows Chip Kelly to walk in with skepticism for a new era and a new regime if you keep Michael Vick. And I think there are better situations, better franchises that will be able to better protect Michael Vick from taking those hits than the Philadelphia Eagles would right now under Chip Kelly. I think Michael Vick should move on, but not if it's going to cost him a lot of money. I want him to get his money.
Okay. I'm shocked you said that. I thought you'd say give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. I'm extremely curious to see what Michael Vick would look like in Chip Kelly's college attack that would be based in part on the Reid option. But the more I think about it, I'd rather have seen Michael Vick at 21 or 22, that Atlanta Michael Vick who lit up the NFL. That's who I'd want to see doing this. I'm just not sure, because he did go through his punch-drunk phase at the end of the year last year. I'm not sure he's right for this right now, and I think they'll decide that. He's way too expensive for them to start over with in a new regime. So I'm with you. Give him a shot to go elsewhere. I love your Jets idea. I don't know how he would have to take far less money to come to the Jets. Obviously.
Well, I'm just saying they got it's got a $3 million situation. I don't know exactly how that works. But I definitely think that he would outshine Mark Sanchez. And I think that if you put him with an offensive line that would protect him, I definitely think when you look at an RG3, a Colin Kaepernick, of Andrew Luck, all of these new dudes coming up, you got to remember Michael Vick, even with the lost step, is still far more explosive with his legs than most people in this league if utilized correctly. So you got to find the right place for him in order to utilize his skill set while protecting him.
Did you see the note the other day that the Eagles and Chip Kelly are now expected to sign Dennis Dixon, who ran Chip Kelly's offense at Oregon?
I liked Dennis Dixon when he was backing up Big Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. He's got some wheels on him, too. I like Dennis Dixon. So
Chip Kelly is basically saying, I've got my Michael Vick.
And he's taller,
and he's taller, right. And he's going to run my offense. Maybe. I'm going to give him a chance to compete for the job because he gets it, he knows it, he's younger, he's taller.
And he hasn't taken as many licks. And he's got Michael Vick by about 4 inches. So seeing over the line of scrimmage is incredibly important.
I'm still waiting for you. Did you say what they should do with Michael Vick? Did you say get rid of him?
I think they should let him go. Remember, it would cost so much money. What's his tag next year? It's outrageous amount of money that you would owe him if you kept him and tried to make him your starting quarterback.
But out of respect, listen, this is the one thing I think everybody needs to remember about Michael Vick. He got hit more than he ever has in his career. He got hit. It's not like, oh, my God, his skills are gone. He was getting hit up. So my point is, if he's not getting hit like that, I'm giving him a chance because I still believe he can do some things, especially because of what we've seen Russell Wilson, the RG3s of the world, and others do. Because of that. If it was just dropping back to pass, no, I wouldn't have that faith.
But good point. He's more explosive.
He's more explosive. I'm telling you, Michael Vick can still do some damage if he's protected, but he's got to be protected.
That's interesting. You both say he should be gone. So we'll see what happens. We have March 11th, less than a month. Meantime, in between time, thank you for joining us. It's been a great show. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN.